Hello, I'm going to talk about my life. I got the inspiration to do this. I'm reading a book, Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, and this guy is hypnotizing this woman into talking about her past life, so I'm going to talk about my life. So, the earliest thing that I remember routinely, I'm not one of those people who remembers back, when I'm like 3, like, my mother's brother says he remembers his first birthday and blowing out the cake. I can't go that far. When I was about 3 or 4, we moved from, I was born in Austin, Texas. We moved from like this house on Rock Creek Drive, a couple blocks from the river, up into Westlake Hills. And I don't remember living in the Rock Creek house. I see pictures of it, me as a baby running around in the pool and stuff, but I don't remember it. And I don't even remember, well, I think I vaguely remember living in the Westlake Hills house and knowing that we hadn't lived there for very long. We just moved there. But, I mean, I didn't even remember that. All I remember is the Westlake Hills house. So anyways, we had this Westlake Hills house. We were neighbors with, the governor, or future governor, Ann, what was her name? Ann Richards. And her daughter was my babysitter. And I do remember having a babysitter there, who was this girl who was fascinated by our TV remote control, and she was like seeing how far away she could stand away from the TV and the remote would still work, and she was like way over on the other side of the hallway from my parents' room, seeing if it worked and stuff. And my mom said there was a girl who was my babysitter who thought that I was English. She thought I was adopted because I spoke in an English accent when I was a kid. But yeah, we had this house, and my brother and I shared a room, even though there were 2 rooms in the basement. For some reason, my brother and I shared a room. And I remember when he was really young, before he couldn't remember what happened the day before, so I would hit him and he'd cry, and then the next day he'd want to be my best friend, and he wouldn't remember me hitting him the day before, so I would hit him and he'd cry, and I wouldn't, and then we'd be friends the next day because he wouldn't remember what happened the day before. But yeah, we were I remember running around from the kitchen to the living room, the divider thing, doing laps, running around with him, and I'd be lapping him, and he'd keep running him. We had a pool, and you could see the skyline of Austin from the house, but I don't remember seeing it because we had a fence there, and I wasn't tall enough to look over the fence. And we lived on the side of a hill, and on the top of a hill, actually, and we'd walk down the hill through a forest that was part of our land to a tent platform. And I don't ever recall actually camping on that tent, or maybe once, but we would just go down there and do yoga with my mom. And as far as I could tell, I never saw the boundaries of our land. I did go back there a few years ago, and I walked down. It wasn't so much farther down from the tent. From the tent found a platform where it was the bottom of the gully. But yeah, we had these 2 4-wheeler pedal bike things. One of them was a Jeep, a World War II Jeep, and the other one was the Batmobile that we'd ride around. But I got bored with those pretty quick. I wanted to learn how to ride a bike, but the problem was the road out in front of our house was a dirt road with lots of potholes. And so it was hard for me to, the wheels, I couldn't get up to speed. And when my father, so I rode around on training wheels, but I didn't want to ride training wheels. I wanted to ride the bike without the training wheels. So every weekend, my father would take the training wheels off, and he would hold the bike up for me. But he wouldn't teach me how to ride a bike by pushing me for some reason. He didn't push me. So I couldn't get up the motivation, the momentum. So he would just let go of the bike and I'd have to ride it. And, I'd have to get the momentum myself riding over the potholes in the dirt. So it took me a while, but I finally was able to do it when I was 4. I was able to ride a bike, but I learned. But, I could ride on like a dirt road. But I just rode around the house. I didn't go on like long rides. Because like we lived kind of out of town. On dirt roads. There was this, we kind of, the road that our house is on, it went down to a dead end. And I went there a couple years ago and the dead end still exists. And there were no houses there. It was just this like parking lot that you could overlook the city. And so I'd ride my bike back and forth to there, which was like like 100 or a couple hundred yards or something. With my brother, we would go down there a lot. And there were daisies there. Because I remember thinking, oh, look, daisies. Daisy flowers. These are daisies. Just like the name of the girl from Dukes of Hazzard, because her name's Daisy. Because we watched Dukes of Hazzard came on after the Incredible Hulk. We'd watch Incredible Hulk. Oh, no. Dukes of Hazzard was first, and then the Incredible Hulk. So we'd watch both of those shows. Those were like the 2 shows we watched. And we had a dog and a cat, Luis and Biscuit. We found Biscuit as a stray dog. He just like followed us and we picked him up. One time he disappeared for like a week and a friend of the family saw him at a gas station in town, which is like a long ways from our house. So they put him in the car and brought him back to the house. But every time we left, he would run after the car barking. For like the longest time. For like a couple blocks. Every single time he'd run after the car barking. And we had a neighbor. Another next door neighbor of ours was Stevie Ray Vaughan. I didn't know that at the time. I went and visited the house we grew up and they actually told us that. No, it wasn't Stevie Ray Vaughan. It was Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother. But anyways, there's supposed to be, there was this crazy dog there who like, a neighbor had a crazy dog who like killed a dog and a cat, I remember. But there was another kid who lived across the street. But I didn't hang out with him. I just remember him hanging out in front of his house one day. And my mom was like, oh, you're the oldest too. Kyle's the oldest. How do you like being the oldest? Yeah, I like being the oldest. And that's all I remember. Oh, and he had this 3-wheeler that he would like go down his really steep driveway and pull the thing and like slide. So it's like cool. And I remember once my dad went and bought me a bigger bike, BMX bike. We drove way out to some house and he got it used from somebody. And I rode around on that a little bit, but the main bike I had for the longest, that was like not long before we moved to Boulder, so the main bike I had was this little red bike. But I outgrew that, That's why he bought me that other bike, but I didn't really ride it. It had a flat tire when he bought it, and he didn't like fix it immediately, so I kind of didn't really. And when I finally got it fixed, I don't know, I didn't really ride that one as much. But I remember the school I went to, the preschool. I remember the preschool I went to. Called Lampin. No. What was it called? Oh my God, I can't remember. The kindergarten was called Lampenlighter. The preschool was Montessori. And my mom would drive us through the forest really far. It was like way out of town. And it was this one building. And on the other side was my brother's area for the younger kids. And then my side was for the older kids. And we just played. I don't remember. We had different schedules or whatever. My brother's side was more fun because there were more toys and stuff, and sometimes I would sneak over there and play over there. But I remember standing outside of at like lunch, and we would have like lunch with the kids, other kids. One of the kids had one of the kids had a R2-D2 from Star Wars. And my parents said that we saw Star Wars in the movie theater in Fort Collins. But I don't remember that. But he had an R2-D2. And we had lunch. And the other kids would have like white Wonder Bread, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, and like potato chips and stuff. But my breakfast, my mom gave me like chunky peanut butter on like rice cakes. And like it was like the health food, giving me like health food. And other kids would have like, you know, like fruit juice or whatever. And I kind of felt like that was cool. Like I was healthier because I had the health food lunches. I remember when my mom picked me up every day after school because we drive around this like, it had this like big like loop-de-doop-de thing around the building. So I remember just driving around that before we leave. And their old lime green Oldsmobile station wagon. I remember once my grandmother, my mother's mother, visited, and she was like, yeah, look at the car. Like, you can, you know, move the seat down and have like the bed area, and then you can open up the door this way or the other way. It was like right after she got it. And my dad had a black Oldsmobile Toronado, and I remember him saying it was like really strong. Like, it was faster than the Trans Am and just as fast as the Corvette. And I was like, cool. And I'd be like telling my friends that, you know. But like, I think I had a friend, a best friend, I think it was from that school, named Patrick Dickerson. And anyways, yeah, when I was at that school, Montessori, I remember once we had a Christmas party at that place, and my parents said, oh yeah, Santa Claus is on the roof right now giving presents and stuff, and I actually believed them. But I remember another time we were in town and we were sitting on Santa's lap, and he was like saying, ho ho ho, what do you want for Christmas? And this kid who was with me was like, look, that's not Santa, because he was like, behind the guy's head was like the guy's real hair. And I was like, oh yeah, look, it's not Santa. But let's pretend we think it's Santa. But I don't know if I believed there was a Santa at that point. But yeah, but then I remember at one point I had diarrhea, and the lady took me upstairs and like took all my clothes off and put me in a bathtub to wash me off. And the bathtub was like, got all like shitty. But then and then my mom picked me up early because I had the diarrhea. And then when I don't know how old I was, I went and changed schools to this other school called Lampenlighter. I guess was the kindergarten. Which is like this big complex. Had lots of, and it was more in town. Had lots of schools near it, and there was even a high school right next to it. And we had this woman teacher who was nice, who like the kids really liked. And we did stuff like learning alphabets and stuff like that. And I remember I made an E, and it was a perfect E. And I was like, my God, it's the perfect E. Lowercase e. I think my best friend there, Patrick Dickerson, was in my class, but then he was moved to the other class. And I remember, like, we would, like, you know, when we would go off to, like, other places, walking around, we'd be like, step on a crack and break your mother's back, so we wouldn't step on the crack. And I'd jump over the crack. Oh, whoops, that's done with that part.